Lauren Boebert is insisting on introducing articles of impeachment against President Biden. Take a look. I'll share thoughts afterwards.
Lauren, you really turned the investigation talk into impeachment talk with articles of impeachment you filed against President Biden last month. Speaker McCarthy has been teasing an impeachment inquiry. Do you expect an impeachment vote when we return to Washington in September?
Matt, one way or another, we will have a vote on impeachment for Joe Biden, because if we don't have an impeachment inquiry in the Judiciary Committee or any other committee for that matter, I will go to the floor once again with a privileged motion and force an up or down vote on impeachment for Joe Biden. Americans are tired of this. Article 2, Section 4 says the president, the vice president, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. We have the evidence for the bribery, for the corruption, for this compromised president, Joe Biden, Robert L. Peters, whatever you want to call him. We will have a vote on impeachment.
You heard it here. Lauren Boebert is going to force the vote if the inquiry does not produce articles of impeachment for the House of Representatives.
We all know this effort is going nowhere. It's performative politics. That's it. We have reached a point in America where leading politicians from a major political party have stopped caring about governing and just want to put on a show. The problem is their empty performances have real consequences. I interviewed Congressman Jason Crow for Burn the Boats just before Lauren Boebert pledged to introduce those ridiculous articles of impeachment. Our conversation covered a lot of ground, but I made sure to ask Jason about his colleague from Colorado, Congresswoman Boebert. I want to share his response here on Against All Enemies because he offered some really thoughtful insights on how extremism in Congress affects extremism in American society. You have a colleague in your Colorado delegation that is the exemplar of this. And I'm recalling our last conversation in early 2021 when I sensed at least a little bit of hesitation to really go after Lauren Boebert. I think that was just professional decorum on your part. That has since been shed, and you are holding her accountable, which I am incredibly grateful for. But can you just give us a couple of examples of what you're talking about when you say they're not there to govern? I mean, in her case, she doesn't even vote on some of the biggest bills that affect her own constituents.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you recognize my evolution on Lauren Boebert, which is true, right? When she first came to the House, listen, I try to assume the best of people. And I try to give people an opportunity to grow and evolve, because who doesn't, right? I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I've changed. I've evolved as a person. I mean, you want to, right? You want to be able to change and grow. So I wanted to give her that opportunity to kind of to turn the page and show a willingness to roll up the sleeves and govern and be a good colleague from Colorado, because that's what Colorado deserves. And there's a long history and tradition in Colorado of the Colorado delegation working in a bipartisan way and working together. And I wanted to keep that history and tradition going. So you're right. I refrained from attacking her because I wanted to give her that space. I wanted to give her that opportunity to step up to the plate and work with us. Over time, she proved that she was not willing to do that. And she engaged in more extreme rhetoric, and I'm not going to put up with that. Right? I'm not going to allow people to say things and do things that undermine our democracy, that undermine my constituents, that are dangerous, because we've learned that words are dangerous. They do matter. I'm not going to allow that to go unchecked. So I've certainly been very vocal and counteracted that. So I mean that's kind of my general approach to these folks in these types of situations.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I've got a quick break here, but I need a favor first. Shows like this depend on your support. Please, if you can spare 5 seconds, click the link to the podcast version of the show below and leave us a 5-star review. It really does help. Thanks. Talk about the effect that extremism in Congress has on America's streets, in America's schools, because we have seen extremists in our country before. We have seen terrorist movements. What is uniquely dangerous about this moment, well, not uniquely dangerous. You have to go back to like the KKK in the Deep South in the 20s. You have to go back a long ways. But when a major political party endorses and provokes that kind of extremism, we're in incredibly dangerous territory. And you have a colleague who is at the tip of the spear of that.
Little Twitter trolls, they like to say, oh, Jesus didn't need an AR-15. How many AR-15s do you think Jesus would have had? Well, he didn't have enough to keep his government from killing him. So...
Yeah, there's no doubt that there's always been conspiracy theories. There's always been extremist strands, not just within the U.S., but frankly, any society, right, that exists. It's just a component of human nature. I think what makes this moment in this toxic stew so dangerous is a factor of a couple of things. You have technology, which of course has been able to connect people that were otherwise kind of marginalized and kept in the shadows with their extreme and dangerous views are now connecting with each other. They now are platformed in a way that they weren't before. That's number one. Number two, you have our adversaries, our foreign adversaries and our enemies actually using that technology to reach within the United States and to shake people up and to radicalize them and to take advantage of our divisions of a society. So you have these very sophisticated state actors that are leveraging it. And then number three, you have a organized political party, and you have people that are part of that party with legitimate platforms that use those platforms to legitimize illegitimate views, right? So when you have somebody saying something crazy, maybe on a soapbox in the town square or yelling on the street corner, that's one thing. When you have somebody saying something crazy sitting at the podium on the floor of the House of Representatives, that's something entirely different. It has an impact. It has a legitimate perspective that people will look at it. And that's the combination of all those things converging is making this moment in time unique and more dangerous, in my view.
When we lament the state of performative politics in the Republican Party today, it's not just about that party's inability to focus on governing or the distractions that serious political leaders like Jason Crow have to deal with. We're also highlighting the real damage that people like Lauren Boebert do, the communities they hurt, and the extremists they incite. This video was just recorded as kids are going back to school. I can't decide what's more insane, that these cosplay morons feel like they're actually making kids safer, or that this kind of thing has become so normalized that authorities just let it happen.
I'm sure people watching this video are going to ask, Mike, why do you have a guy prone with a rifle pointed into the parking lot? How are you going to answer that?
So we got 360 security right now, so we're just covering all angles. So, and he's more comfortable in the prone, so why not?
And what are the 360 security looking out for?
You want to notify us when 12 decides to win and if 12 decides to roll in. So people say come and take it, we say come and take it. And there's a big difference. Obviously that's a joke, but there is a big difference in the people who say come and take it because they wear a t-shirt and they post on Facebook, and we really do it. So that's funny because the sheriff's office thought we were going to be at the sheriff's office. So it makes this slightly more entertaining.
Extremism in Congress normalizes extremism on America's streets. That is why we need to continue holding people like Lauren Boebert accountable. Ultimately, it is the voters in Colorado who will decide her fate. Lauren Boebert won her last election after a recount by a few hundred votes. She is beatable. So to any Coloradans watching, if having a real public servant in Congress like Jason Crow isn't motivation enough to fire Lauren Boebert, think about this. If she is reelected in 2024, she will be eligible for a lifetime pension paid for by all our tax dollars. Colorado, you can do it. Send Lauren Boebert packing in 2024.